Welcome to a brand new episode of Strange Encounters, where we once again delve into the mysterious and unexplained world of extraterrestrial and UFO UAP encounters. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell, and send your unexplained and strange encounters to verystrangeencounters@gmail.com. You can now submit your stories online to the website linked below the video. Join us on Reddit at r/verystrangeencounters. You can donate to the channel at Patreon or buymeacoffee.com, which are also linked below. So, sit back, relax, and prepare to be amazed by the mysteries of the universe on this episode of Strange Encounters. Predator of the San Bernardino National Forest by unknown user. This happened on Thursday. I've been looking for a place to ask questions and share this experience. I don't know if this sub is the right place. Feel free to pass my story along if you know somewhere better. Okay, I totally understand if no one believes this, because we are still unsure of what happened, but we sat down and came to a consensus on the events and all agreed we witnessed the same thing. Me and three buddies were hiking Thursday and Friday in San Bernardino National Forest. We hiked various trails, mostly the known ones, and mostly during the day. Friday, we were making our way to Clark's Summit. As we were walking, one by one, we noticed that we were veering off the trail. I asked my friend in front of me why he was going off the trail, and he asked our friend who was in front of him the same thing. The friend in front told us, "I can hear a woman talking. You guys don't hear that?" We didn't hear anything. We tried to convince her to leave it be, because it was already kind of dark, and we were close to where we wanted to set up camp on the trail. The friend in front is female and insisted that what she heard sounded like a female calling for help, and that she sounded really close. So I think she felt inclined to investigate a possible female in distress, while we were totally okay with going about our business. Okay, I get a bit spooked now because she's absolutely serious, and we absolutely could not hear whatever she was hearing. Here's where it got weird. We only ventured off the trail about 300 to 400 meters, yet at one point, we were completely lost. We don't have any fancy gear or GPS stuff because we've never needed it, but we've been on this trail enough to know we hadn't gone far. Yet, we couldn't find the trail in any direction after walking for about 15 to 20 minutes. I started to feel weird, kind of dizzy, lightheaded, and when I mentioned this, the other two said they felt weird as well. It was like something had changed the environment around us or moved us somehow to another location. I had no idea which way to go, and now it was fully dark. My female friend said the woman's voice had said, "I'm over here," and "Please help me." She said it sounded like she was hurt or crying. So here we are, somehow lost after only walking for about 20 minutes off a large trail because my friend is hearing voices. We decided to stop walking in any direction, because the last thing you want to do at night is get even more lost. We had 2 tents and sleeping bags in our packs, so we found a clearing and set up. We figured once the sun was out, we'd easily find our way back to the trail. Before we could even lay down to rest, I noticed a tree near us was moving, as if something was climbing it. It was really dark, and I wear glasses, so I really struggled to see, so I called them over to see. I thought it was an animal at first, but it wasn't an animal. It wasn't anything. I could see the outline of what roughly looked like a human shape, but it was transparent, like completely see-through. The best way I can describe it is the way heat waves look on the pavement in the summer. You know, that wavy liquid effect. They saw it too. My male buddy said, "What the heck are we looking at?" when he finally spotted it. They all said the same thing. It was transparent, but still visible due to the foliage around it being displaced and moving as it moved. We all just stood stone still, whispering theories back and forth as to what we thought we were seeing. I thought maybe it was some kind of optical illusion, but they both immediately jumped to aliens, of course. The thing just sat there, perched on a large branch about 50 feet up. It's like it was watching us watch it. The other oddity is that after staring at this thing for about 10 minutes, we noticed all the normal forest sounds we heard prior had stopped completely. I mean, the only noise was us talking and the leaves under our feet. The hairs on my neck stood up, and I had goosebumps all over when I realized this, like something was truly wrong. After about 10 minutes of us standing there, whatever this thing was started to climb up the tree even more until we could no longer see it all. We approached the base of the tree slowly and walked around in a circle with our necks craned up, trying to see this thing. It was too dark, and the trees were too close for us to see the top. We didn't hear it jump to another tree, so we assumed it was still up there. We were all too spooked, obviously, to camp right underneath whatever this was, so we gathered our stuff and started walking towards the moon. I kid you not, after about 5 minutes of walking, we were back on the trail. I literally dropped my bag and said, "What the heck?" out loud. We all stood there confused, looking around, trying to confirm what we were seeing. My buddy likes to joke and said maybe we walked through some hallucinogenic spores and had imagined all of that. I highly doubt that, but whatever happened, it seemed kind of, I guess, predatory. It seems like something was luring us or trying to confuse us. My friend still thinks we were messing with her about not hearing the woman she claimed to hear. Was it that thing we saw, imitating a woman? How did we get lost so close to the trail? This was easily the weirdest thing I've ever experienced in the wilderness. We still don't have a good theory as to what we saw. It may not have been an alien, but whatever it was humanoid and was 100% transparent somehow, and able to climb a really large tree with ease without making much noise. I would love to hear any theories about what this may have been. Has anyone else seen anything like this in the woods? My Sighting at 13 by King Waluigi. Before we get started with this story, I would like to give King Waluigi a special shout out and a big thanks for providing the images to go with his story. Now, let's get on with the story. I am reluctant to post this. I did years ago on a UFO subreddit and was met with non-stop hate, and it kind of made me think I should never post it again. But a few people mentioned wanting to read it. Hello. I am 34 years old. I live in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. I was 13 when this happened. I lived in the same town my whole life, except for 1 year when I traveled to Halifax and visited Shag Harbor. After my sighting, I went from thinking that it's all hogwash to being so absolutely absorbed and terrified by it. I thrust myself into the world of ufology. I spent the next 5 years reading, watching, looking at every single photo, video, article, sighting, encounter, etc. I could find. I talked to people online, in my area, and I visited Shag Harbor at age 18. I spent my entire teen life, and still to this day, researching, from a place of science. So, it was a Friday. I remember because I was allowed to stay up as long as I wanted on weekends. It was around 9:30 p.m. I was after getting off the computer and getting ready to read and watch some TV or game, or stargaze. I was always interested in science and space and the beauty of it. I had an uncle that always told me who to look up, scientists, rational thinkers, etc. He got me very into science as a whole. Feynman, Gauss, Newton, Riemann, Sagan. I remember the night clearly though. I ended up, after reading, watching TV before playing a game. I had VHS tapes of Beast Wars, Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, and Freaky Stories. When I found nothing to watch, I would put one of those on. My living room at the time had a window above me behind the TV, off to the right slightly. So, I'm watching TV. I don't remember what exactly. I remember flicking off the VHS tape and turning the PlayStation on and playing Spyro. It was about 2:30 or 3 a.m. at this point. My father got up to use the washroom and went back to bed. My sister went to sleep. I got up to get a drink and saw something out of the corner of my eye, outside the window, above the high school. Now, where I lived, I could literally walk outside of my house, take 2 steps, and I was on school property. I see this light above the school and say to myself, gotta see what that is. I figured it was a meteor shower or space junk or a comet, etc. I grabbed the binoculars. I looked out the window to see if I could see it. I couldn't really get a good look. It was too blurry through the window, so I went outside to have a look. It was around 3 a.m. It was not very bright in my small town. I looked out toward the school. I see something I can only describe as a ball of metal, almost like a flowing liquid metal, but to my eyes it seemed like it was taking the form of a sphere, condensing in on itself from time to time, and rippling, as if the surface rippled like water, or the light from it appeared that way. It was circular, bright white, almost silvery. At times it seemed that the light coming from it faded, and I could see that it was a solid sphere, silver in appearance. I do not know how big it would be. I guess it would be the size of a 2-seater passenger plane, or an old World War I biplane. It darted from above the school to the hospital in the blink of an eye. For some perspective, the distance was about 1/4 kilometer, but it moved on a somewhat linear path. I had my eyes glued to it, and it blinked out of existence. It's the only way I can describe it. I could no longer see it. I scanned around the sky with the binoculars to find it was above a church about 1 kilometer away. Same strange ball, rippling like metal. I was outside for, I believe, 25 to 30 minutes, based on me coming back in between 3:30 a.m. and 4 a.m. My brain could not comprehend what I was seeing. I literally thought I was dreaming or experiencing some type of hallucination. I felt as if what I was seeing was straight out of a movie or a sci-fi book. It was like it was darting around our entire town at random intervals, going from one part to another within the blink of an eye. The distance it traveled from the school to above the hospital to the church is in total 1.4 kilometers. I snapped to and for some reason started crying and ran to my dad and woke him up. It's a satellite, is what he said. My father enjoyed watching stuff on UFOs and personally believed the US government covered something up about Roswell, but he never ever really said too much. Other than, it's a satellite, and to not tell anyone, and he was very firm and kind of mean with telling me to shut up about it. He told me to go to sleep. I was terrified for whatever reason. I was so scared after it, I did not sleep for months unless one of my parents were awake while I fell asleep, which was always my father. I actually really struggled with whatever I experienced that night for a very long time. It was a really horrific experience for me and hard to even talk about. I want to talk about it. I had extreme anxiety and depression from it. I was only a teenager, just barely. I found myself being paranoid. I did not want to be alone at all, anywhere. In the daytime, I would make sure I always knew where someone was. I was never alone. I was so afraid, I started saying prayers. I spent the next 5 years looking at everything I could related to UFOs and became like an expert on it. The sensation I had from it, I felt a oneness, kind of, but also so completely overwhelmed with fear. It felt as if my skin was trying to escape my body. My spine burned, and the entire time I was filled with thoughts of, this is amazing, and I'm going to die. I need to get in the house. All the hair on my body was standing up. I was sweating. When I got in the house, my shirt was nearly stuck to me in sweat. My father thought I went outside and got attacked and ran away. I was crying, rambling about some craft in the sky and how it was going to get me. My father told me he never saw anyone so absolutely terrified before. I have never been so afraid in my life by anything, and I've been attacked by a coyote. That didn't make me anywhere near this level of fear. The only way I can describe it was true fear. My body was telling me I was going to die, but I could not leave. I was fixed on watching this. Dreams of Greys by Mr. Garbage Collector. After some deliberation, I decided to create this post, since lately I cannot stop thinking about it, and hopefully pouring it all out will help me to desensitize myself and convince me it's all in my head. I am 30 years old and live in Central Europe. My country has a few well-known UFO cases. Since I was young, I used to be afraid of the night and had trouble sleeping by myself. I often slept with my parents. I remember fearing windows in the bedroom for whatever reason. Even nowadays, I feel uncomfortable unless the bed is in a strategic position, and I have trouble falling asleep without some light source. For example, a TV. Any unusual sounds get my blood pumping. The first time I saw a gray alien depiction on TV, was it The X-Files? When I was young, I remember becoming terrified for whatever reason. That uneasiness prevailed for quite a while whenever I watched science fiction that involved them. For a long time, I used to wake up in the middle of the night with the feeling that something or someone is standing close to me, and then I would fall asleep again. Admittedly, that didn't happen very often, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, but unlike regular dreams, which I can barely remember after waking up, these dreamlike states I remember quite vividly. They feel quite distinct to me, and they seem quite short, like maybe a few seconds. I could never quite tell what it was that woke me up. I have experienced sleep paralysis a few times, but those are quite different from those experiences. I'm not sure if this is relevant, but what many people describe as déjà vu, well, sometimes I have dreams which I can remember, and whenever I experience a déjà vu, I can pinpoint exactly when I dreamed about the same situation occurring. Perhaps there's no connection. Perhaps this is all my imagination. Perhaps a screw loose in the brain. For the last 3 years, the someone in the room dreamlike states changed. They started featuring the gray aliens. I can remember seeing them up close, maybe 1 meter tall, very light gray skin color. They seem to be in some one-colored suits from the head down. I have a few tales I can share. In one instance, I woke up with a gray standing right above me. All I could see was his head, and I had a good look at it. Unlike the menacing depictions where they have angular faces, protruding black eyes, and seem angry, it had a big round head, no visible hair, slightly too big eyes for its frame, and it seemed like it was smiling at me. I remember I couldn't stop looking at the eyes. They were darkish and had a mesmerizing cloud-like pattern to them at the eye's edge. In another instance, I woke up with the gray standing in front of my bed in the bedroom, and for whatever reason I was angry. I started getting up. The gray seemed startled and ran away from me in a silly way. I followed him. He was hiding behind a closet in the bedroom. I remember hitting him in the head, and that was that. This happened a year ago, and was the last experience until now. 2 weeks ago, I woke up laying somewhere in a dark room with a red hue. I could see the gray's head in the distance. It seemed to be working on something. I remember becoming terrified, and then it looked at me. The fear intensified, and that was that. These dreamlike states seem short. It's like I'm awake but not fully in control of myself. They all used to happen in my bedroom, but the last one definitely didn't happen in my bedroom, and it is what prompted me to write it all out. I'm still not sure what to think of it all. I've always believed that perhaps I have some phobia, night terrors, or whatever, coupled with a vivid imagination. But then I started seeing the grays, and now I wake up not in my bedroom. Assuming these dreamlike states are real, I'm not sure what they want with me and how the grays are getting to me and why the experiences are escalating. I am no one special. The only unusual thing about me is my blood type, A negative, which is quite rare in my country, and apparently some people believe it to be of a paranormal origin, which I find dubious at best, to be honest. I've always lived in big cities in blocks of flats, so how would they avoid getting noticed if I've been visited or abducted? Why would it start since I was little? How would they even find me? I don't remember them ever communicating with me, or seeing any spaceships or whatever, or being actively abducted, nor getting any feelings or ideas from them. I must have watched all the UFO documentaries, read stories of the experiencers, and well, whatever it is that I am remembering seems short and leaves me quite perplexed. I've tried talking about it with my two best friends, but they mostly looked at me funny and told me to stop watching movies before I fall asleep. Not that I can blame them. When I once tried to talk about it with my father, he got quiet and changed the topic. I didn't try to force the conversation. Admittedly, I tried the what if route. So, internet strangers it is. I hope it either resonates with someone, or I will be told to get some therapy for unresolved issues. Green Lights in Bavaria by The Friendly Zeno. I am a 23-year-old male and an active duty field artillery U.S. soldier stationed in Germany with the 2nd Cavalry Regiment. We all go to the Hohenfels training area at least once a year to train with our NATO partners for 1 month out there in the field. It sucks. During Operation Sabre Junction 2021, from August to September in the Hohenfels training area, while I was pulling security early in the morning, I had the following experience. I was pulling .50 caliber guard in the middle of the night from the hatch of my ammunition truck. I don't know what time it was, but I was not drowsy. It was a very clear night, quiet night with barely any clouds. The stars and moon were bright that night, so visibility was good. I was scanning the field in front of me with my nods. Those are night vision goggles. Before I was blinded by an incredibly bright green light that flared up in the sky. I took off my Kevlar, squinting my eyes shut before looking back into the sky. And there, I reckon about 400 meters in front of me and about 700 meters up in the sky, was a large, very bright green light with two smaller, but equally bright green lights right below it. These 3 green lights were definitely a part of the same object. It stayed there for a good, long moment before slowly descending, not making a single sound. A couple of seconds later, another object appeared to its top left, my top right, parallel to where its twin had appeared and held altitude for a little while, but not in the same spot. It too, after a few moments, began to slowly descend with its twin. Both of them eventually disappeared behind the tree line that was in front of me, beyond the field I was watching. I called it up over the radio as I witnessed the event, but nobody acknowledged me except for one of my sergeants who was in my battery at the time, but was in another section, probably no more than 300 meters to my left flank. who said he was seeing the same thing I was. My best guess would be that they were extremely quiet drones, but I'm unsure if they were human because all drones I've seen and heard are obnoxiously loud. Brother Abducted by Adventurous Air 3291. So, about a year ago, my older brother asked me one night if I wanted to watch a movie with him. I was playing video games at the time, so he said he would come back in 30 minutes, so I could play more before we watched. About an hour and a half passed, and I wasn't upset because I was invested in my game, but then he came into my room very confused, and told me he had woken up on the ground in his room, which is in the basement, and the last thing he remembered was opening the basement door, which led to the outside, because he was going outside to smoke. He seemed very freaked out, but I told him he most likely just passed out, and he settled down. 2 days later, however, patches of his hair turned blonde, almost white, like they were terribly bleached or something, and he joked that he must have been abducted because his hair was changing colors. I was quite spooked by the idea, but he just looked at it as an excuse to dye his hair and found it cool. That whole event was brushed off and forgotten about until recently. He told me he went to an ophthalmologist to get his yearly eye exam, and that his doctor told him he had ultraviolet damage on his eyes. They are known as corneal flash burns. My brother, never having worked a job other than retail all his life, found it odd to have sustained ultraviolet damage. So did his eye doctor, and so now my brother swears he must have been abducted. This resurfaced this whole event and had me curious as to whether or not his experiences were in any way consistent with other reports of abduction, so as to find some sort of resolution or explanation on the rather strange matter. Camping Experiences by Anonymous User. My experiences started when I was about 7 or 8. I started to have the same type of dreams. I would have these very intense dreams where I would be walking with these human-like, but clearly not humans, and they would tell me things. There were also times when I would wake up in a sort of paralysis. I had my first experience where I was abducted, and I described it in detail to my parents, and I also had some weird implant that appeared below the waist. A doctor examined it and said it would probably come out eventually, and there was no need to remove it. It did finally fall out when I was about 22, and I still have a scar from where it was. My parents took me to the local university and sleep observation center. They ended up having me go into a sort of counseling observation at the university, where I would visit a PhD student once a week and just talk about it. They also performed IQ tests and the like, and I scored a 164 at age 10. They decided to put me on Ritalin at age 9, and the dreams stopped, probably because I didn't sleep a whole lot. Later on in life, around age 16 or 17, I stopped taking meds and things started happening again. In my 20s, I had some pretty crazy experiences on the West Coast, around the Green Triangle area, like Humboldt, where I would wake up and there would be things talking to me. It was terrifying, but I felt pretty safe overall. I will note, aside from prescribed medications, I never did any kinds of drugs. This went on for a while. Then recently, starting about 6 years ago, I had some incredible experiences. I have property deep in the woods, and I was camping with some friends. No one was doing any drugs, though there was some drinking going on. In the distance, we saw glowing white figures, about 5 of them spaced about 2 feet apart, just standing there. Then they started to move towards us. One of our friends was a cocky male and yelled at them to come at him, and within seconds, he was doubled over in pain. We had warned him they weren't threatening, but he was an idiot. The rest of us just kept our distance. They came a bit closer and then disappeared. We went to bed, and I had another very intense experience that night where we spoke, but I couldn't remember about what. The next time we went camping up there, it was just my wife, daughter, and myself. This time we had another experience after my daughter went to sleep. It was a new moon, so the stars were bright, and so we were stargazing. There appeared about 50 feet above us some twinkling moving lights that just seemed like they were flirting with us. They were maybe the size of a basketball. There was a feeling of almost telepathic communication. It was quite awesome. They stuck around for about 30 minutes and then disappeared. Since then, we actually moved to the mountains not far from the property where we had those experiences. The experiences continue but are intermittent. It has been interesting to share them with my family and friends when they happen. Enjoy your journey. I understand the feeling of craziness and the fear you have sometimes, but from my experience, they pose no threat. I know my story seems phantasmal, but I'm just telling you what happened to me. In this next segment, we're looking at some of the most classic and well-known cases of encounters with the strange, including sightings of unidentified flying objects, alien abductions, ghost stories, cryptid encounters, and other unexplained phenomena. So, sit back and prepare to be taken on a journey through some of the most captivating and mysterious stories of the strange and unknown. In this episode, we take a look at the Rendlesham Forest Incident of 1980. Famous Encounters: The Rendlesham Forest Incident of 1980. The Rendlesham Forest Incident, also known as the Suffolk Incident, is a famous UFO sighting that occurred in December 1980 in the Rendlesham Forest near the Bentwaters and Woodbridge Royal Air Force bases in Suffolk, England. It's one of the most well-known and well-documented UFO sightings in history, with many witnesses coming forward to describe the events that occurred over the course of several days. The incident began on the night of December 26, 1980, when two U.S. Air Force security personnel, John Burroughs and Jim Peniston, were patrolling the perimeter of the RAF Woodbridge base. They spotted strange lights coming from the nearby Rendlesham Forest and went to investigate. They found a metallic object with strange markings on its surface, which appeared to be about 3 meters tall and 3 meters wide. Burroughs and Peniston approached the object, and Peniston touched its surface. He later reported that he experienced a download of binary code, which he wrote down in his notebook. The object then lifted off the ground and flew away, leaving the two men shaken and confused. The next night, December 27, a group of personnel from the base, including the deputy base commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, went to investigate the site of the previous night's sighting. They encountered strange lights moving through the trees, and even saw what appeared to be an object on the ground emitting a bright light. They later reported that they heard strange noises, including what sounded like a woman's voice speaking in an unknown language. The following day, December 28, a team from the UK Ministry of Defence arrived to investigate the incident. They found 3 small indentations in the ground where the object had apparently landed, and radiation levels in the area were higher than normal. The MOD team conducted a thorough investigation and concluded that there was no evidence of any conventional explanation for the sightings. Over the years, many theories have been proposed to explain the Rendlesham Forest Incident. Some people believe that it was a military experiment involving secret technology, while others think that it was a hoax or a misinterpretation of natural phenomena. However, despite extensive investigation, no satisfactory explanation has been found for the events that occurred in the forest over those 3 nights. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Rendlesham Forest Incident is the alleged binary code message received by Jim Peniston during his encounter with the object on December 26, 1980. In 2010, the binary code was decoded by a team of experts and revealed a message which read, "Exploration of humanity, continuous for planetary advance." This message has sparked much debate among researchers and enthusiasts of the incident. The Rendlesham Forest Incident continues to capture the imagination of UFO enthusiasts and skeptics alike, and it remains one of the most compelling cases in the history of UFO sightings. The incident has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and movies, and it continues to be studied by researchers around the world in hopes of uncovering the truth behind this mysterious and unexplained event. Thanks for watching another episode of Strange Encounters. We hope you enjoyed hearing about the mysterious and unexplained stories that we shared today. If you haven't already, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you'll never miss out on any of our future episodes, and you'll help us continue to bring you more fascinating stories and encounters. We'd love to hear from our viewers, so send your own experiences with the unknown to our email at verystrangeEncounters.com. You can also submit your stories to the website linked below. You can join us on Reddit at r/verystrangeEncounters. If you enjoyed the video and would like to support us, join our Patreon page or go to buymeacoffee.com, both of which are linked in the video description and in the pinned comment below. Your support really helps this channel continue to bring you new and amazing stories. This week's Patron of the Week is Crazy Lazy. Thanks so much for all your support. Thank you again for tuning into Strange Encounters. We appreciate the support of everyone who listens to the channel. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and keep looking up.